Hey guys, welcome to the Introvert Dating Success Show, courtesy of introvertdatingsuccess.com. I'm your host as always, Harry Wilmington. And on today's show, I'm going to be actually going over a comment that was left on one of my videos. You know, when doing these kind of shows, I come up with a lot of different topics, trying to teach you guys various things about dating, mating, attraction, and the type of women to go after and not go after. And so to that end, one of the most popular videos on my channel, in fact, the most popular video, just crossed 20,000 views, was a video I did last year called 10 Reasons to Not Date Single Moms. And a lot of you resonated with that. I got a lot of comments under that, mostly from guys that were saying, yeah, I've been through the situation. You're absolutely right. And I had a few comments also saying, well, that's not fair. And how could you say that? Don't single moms deserve love? And for the record, I at no time ever said that single moms don't deserve love. I have had women in my family who end up getting divorced from their first husbands or whatever and having to date somebody else and marry them as well. My granddad was actually my step-granddad because my grandma got remarried after being married to an abusive guy. And so it's not that single women or single moms in particular do not deserve love or a second shot at it. But what I've always said is that there are more difficulties for a guy going into a situation where a woman has a child versus one that does not have a child if all other statistics are the same. And so to that end, that's why I say in terms of your personal dating life, if you don't have kids especially, then maybe go after women that don't have kids first before you look into the single moms pile. But that said, I did have a guy recently that left a comment under that video that I thought warranted a response, okay? And so he wanted to know if there were exceptions that you could put out there to not dating a single mom, okay? And so I'm gonna go over his short list of 5 things that he said could considerably be exceptions to the rule when it comes to looking for a woman that maybe does have kids, but these things would qualify her more so than other traditional single moms, okay? So let's go ahead and jump into that. By the way, we're doing 25 days of these shows in a row leading up to Christmas, and then I'm taking a little bit of time off for 2 or 3 weeks just because of the holiday stuff and birthday stuff. So if you have anything you want me to discuss on any of these 25 shows, then write me at HarryWilmington@gmail.com, all right? So let's go ahead and get to this guy's list. So he put as the comment under that video, stipulations for dating a single mom. So I'm going to read through all of them first, and then I'll go back and then give my thoughts on what he said. So here are the 5 stipulations that this guy said would be okay for a single mom to have in order for her to be considered a dating candidate. So he says, she's widowed or baby daddy is now a monk living in Europe. Number 2, she has only one child and preferably that child is about to graduate high school. Number 3, she is still able to have children in case you want a child of your own. Number 4, she makes enough money to pay her own bills. And number 5, she turns you on. Okay? So those are the reasons that he gave as to how a single mom could be an exception to the rule. So I'm going to go over these because I think that there's a lot of fallacy in what he's saying in a lot of ways on this list. And the fact that he's listed these things out doesn't mean that there can't still be complications that arise from even the women that have the qualities that are on his list, okay? So let's go ahead and go through that. So the first thing he said is, she's widowed or baby daddy is now a monk living in Europe. Well, for one, like I said, as I've said to you guys on shows before, my dad died when I was 9 years old, leaving my mom effectively a widower. And so she, as a single mom, had a 9-year-old and a 7-year-old who just lost their dad, and now conceivably she's supposed to go back out there on the dating market after a while of grieving and, getting adjusted to new life. She's supposed to go out there, at which point we'd be 11 and 9, okay? So here's the thing. It's perfectly fine to feel empathy for a woman's situation and to feel bad for her that she lost the love of her life. You could see her there with 2 kids and want to be the guy that comes in and is able to help the family out because, it's hard as a single parent to raise 2 kids on your own. I get it. But that does not take away from the fact that I said in that video, which is it's still going to be a difficult road because on top of just, even if the dad was still alive, at least the kids would still have some kind of relationship going ideally with the father. But the father not being there, that's even more emotional turmoil. That can still have the kids looking at like, well, is she trying to replace my dad? Does she not really love my dad as much as I thought that she did? And now the kids can come in and try to sabotage that situation. On top of the fact that whether the kids are here and the daddy's in the life or the daddy's gone or the daddy's dead, The kids themselves and their personalities are going to be the things that make these relationships difficult, because kids don't really adjust well to new people that well, especially as you have kids going into their teenage years. It can become really like dicey in terms of how that relationship could build. So not to say that it can't happen, but again, you're going to a situation where a woman has kids. Kids are emotionally unstable most of the time, and even the best of kids are still going to try to have some pushback, and it's not going to be nearly as easy as you think going into it is. You're going in there thinking you're going to be able to help out this widow, but that doesn't take away from the kid's personality and how they're going to be. On top of the other thing he says is, or the daddy is now a monk. So that basically says that the daddy is a monk living in Europe. He's no longer in the picture. He's not trying to see him, etc., etc. Problem is, what if after like 3 years of being a monk, he decides, you know what? I don't want to be a monk anymore. I'm going to go back to the States and see my family and reconnect with my kids. That means that daddy is now back in the picture. Also to the point, just because he skipped uptown and left the country doesn't mean the mom couldn't still be trying to go after him for child support or trying to go to court to make him come visit the kids. Like, there are a plethora of situations that can go into that. On top of, let's say the daddy does go off and the mother really loved this guy and he just up and left and she's feeling some kind of way. Well, she could still be having inner turmoil about that. She could be bringing that baggage now into your relationship to where she thinks that you might be the next guy that tries to do that same thing. So she's always looking over her shoulder at you to see what moves you're making, why you're saying this thing, why you're acting this way. And so, again, that doesn't make the situation any easier just because her baby daddy decided to up and leave and go elsewhere, okay? There can still be complications from that. The second thing he said is she has only one child, and preferably that child is about to graduate high school. So what you're saying is that if she has kids that are 16, 17, 18, it should be no problem to jump in there for like a year or two while the kid's living there. Fantastic, except for a few problems actually. So for starters, what if she has a high schooler that is rebellious and really doesn't like the idea of her mom dating other men, especially when he's around, or thinks that it's going to take time away from the time he'd be able to spend with his mom before going to college? That could cause turmoil. What if at 18, when this kid graduates, they decide, you know what? I don't want to go to college. I want to take a year off to find myself. I want to be able to stay at home and work from home or find a job while I'm living at home and build up some money, whatever. Or what if after they graduate college, they decide, hey, they want to live at home for another year or two. I graduated college and I lived at home for another year before I finally got out on my own for real. So just because they're about to graduate doesn't mean that kid's going to be out of the picture or even out of the house, okay? Now, another thing you need to think about. Let's say the woman has a daughter as a child. Well, there have been cases that have been out there in the media that have shown or talked about, teenage women that try to get the stepdad kicked out of the house by claiming that he inappropriately touched her or sexually did something to her, or actually have that daughter coming on to the guy, either A, as a means to try to get him wrapped up in something and get rid of him, or also because she legitimately has a crush on him and is trying to get her mom out of the picture, okay? So those things can pop up also. So I'm bringing all this up to say it's not that that's like a thing that's gonna always happen, but be mindful that just because they're teenagers doesn't mean they're gonna be any smarter about this situation or any more lenient about you trying to come in and take over, the relationship with the mom, okay? So don't think that can't be a thing, because it very much can be, okay? And you don't know what these kids are thinking. You don't know if they're gonna try to sabotage this thing or try to put something on you in a way that's gonna make you look suspicious to the mom to where she doesn't feel safe having you around. Like, you don't know, okay? But these things happen quite often. If you can go under my 10 reasons to not date single moms video and see tons of guys that left comments about the teenagers in the house doing things to sabotage their relationship. It happens more than you think. Number 3, she is still able to have children in case you want a child of your own. So that's admirable because you want to have a legacy of your own, okay? But think about this. Let's say you meet a mom and she is a single mom, all right? And she has 3 kids. And then you find out later down the line that the first kid was owned by one baby daddy, the second kid's owned by another baby daddy, the third kid is owned by a third baby daddy, and you're number 4. So that means when you're living in the house, you got to take care of 3 other men's children who may or may not decide that they are going to be involved in their kids' lives, meaning that these baby daddies could be coming by the house every so often, but you're ultimately the one taking care of them on top of a 4th kid. So you're taking care of 3 kids that aren't yours, and then you're hoping to have a 4th kid that could possibly be yours, but this woman, meanwhile, has a track record of having a kid, dumping the guy, having the kid, dumping the guy, having the kid, dumping the guy, and you're number 4, and you think you're going to stay around. Could you stay around? You could. Does the track record indicate that you might not stay around? Possibly. So, would it then be the best idea in the world to want to have a kid with this particular woman? My answer is probably not. So, don't think that just because a woman's still able to get pregnant and have your kid, that it's necessarily a good idea, especially when your kid is going to be in the mix with 3 other half kids and half step brothers and sisters that you didn't have. So even if your kid has a relationship to them, it's through the mother. You have no blood bond with these 3 other kids that are in this brood, all right? C, number 4, she makes enough money to pay her own bills. Well, that's great, except there's this thing called hypergamy, which states that most women are looking for a guy that is doing better than them and that by default is making more money than them. And even the most successful women, the ones that are like the CEOs, the ones that are making 6 figures a year, are usually, more often than not, still looking for guys that are making even more than them. There are songs out right now with women where they're talking, by women rappers that are saying things like, well, yeah, I'm spending his money because my money's in the bank. And those songs are saying she expects to be able to spend your money and not have to use any of her money, okay? So just because she can pay her bills doesn't mean that she's not gonna look for you to take on some of those bills when you come to the picture. And that also includes any bills that relate to her kids, medical bills, field trips, schooling, clothes, etc., okay? So you're not gonna be out of the woods because she has her own, because if you come into the picture, trust and believe, more often than not, she's gonna be looking to you and saying, can I get some of that? Yeah, I got my own, but I still want some of that, all right? And then the 5th thing is she turns you on. Well, the reality is, in a relationship, your partner should turn you on, and ideally that'll last long term, but that doesn't take away from the other things that are more important that pop up in relationships in terms of how she treats you, and more importantly as it relates to kids, like how often you guys are gonna be able to really connect, With kids in the way, they can be a burden. It might be a thing where you guys end up looking after the kids more so than looking after your relationship, okay? And the decisions that she's gonna be able to make with her kids, well, they might not gel with you sometimes, and you might wanna say, hey, I wanna discipline the kid this way, or I think they should go to this school or that school, but they're not your kids. So even though you're currently turned on by her now, as things start to creep in with the various difficulties that can arise from dating a woman that has kids, you can start to find her less and less appealing, okay? So this is why I say single moms are not bad people, but they have more baggage, and you're gonna have to go through a lot more in order to have a relationship with them that's gonna be peaceful, all right? And so some of you guys might be like, hey, you know what? As long as the woman's treating me well, and is gonna, be pretty and attractive, and we get along decently, then if she happens to have kids, I don't care if she has 1 kid or 5 kids, if I see that we get along well, I'm gonna make this work. And you know what? More props to you. That is a decision you are right to make. I just want you to be aware of the things that are gonna possibly come up if you decide to make that decision. So that's why I say ultimately, there's no exception or stipulations to the not dating single moms rule. I still err on the side of, if you have an option between 2 women and all things are the same about things that you like, that you want your woman, except for the fact that one's got kids and one doesn't, I'd still err on the side of date the one that does not have kids. Now, if you're having a problem connecting with women that you want to get with that don't have kids, and you're thinking you just got to go ahead and just, suck it up and go date women that have kids because you can't find any other options, well, you might want to start looking into what are the things that you're doing and how are you presenting yourself that makes these single women that don't have kids not want to date you. And you can find out about all of that by signing up for one-on-one coaching. Go to introvertdatingsuccess.com, click on the coaching tab. You can also check out my program, Introvert Dating Success, which takes you through the ins and outs of how to meet, greet, attract, date, land, and keep the woman of your dreams. You can get that by going to the programs tab and check out some of my other programs while you're there, as well as my ebooks. Right now, you can go to the front page of the website and get a free copy of my best-selling ebook, No Girls For You, The Ultimate Guide to Losing the Girl of Your Dreams, simply by signing up for the video newsletter with your name and email address, all right? Also, if you want to show support for this show and the work that I do, you can sign up for a subscription to my YouTube channel at youtube.com/HarryWilmington. You can also leave a Cash App at $HarryWilmington. And of course, like I said, the show's about you. So if you want a question answered on one of these shows, write to me at HarryWilmington@gmail.com. All right? So thanks for watching this show. I'm doing 25 shows leading up to the December 25th. So definitely check back tomorrow for another episode of this program. I'm out. Peace.